Rich Hood with the Kansas City Star did a profile piece on Governor Carnahan, and my recollection is Rich asked him in that interview what the most important character trait someone could have, and Governor Carnahan had a one-word response: manners. And I think that said a great deal about Mel Carnahan.
Well, the thing that I remember the most about him is that he had a really high respect for state government and state employees in particular. He understood the fine workings of state government, even though to some people it may not have been interesting. To him it was fascinating, and he always treated people with the utmost respect.
You know, this one, he had a way of occasionally sending me to new cabinet directors because I had been there a while. And so I remember one of them saying, well, how do I know I'm doing a good job? You know, do I need to call a governor all the time and find out, am I doing the right thing? How will I know if I'm doing what he wants? And I said, your phone won't ring. And he will let you go as long as he knows he thinks you're doing the right thing.
He was the scariest type of boss you could have, because when he hired you, he trusted you, and he knew you could do the job more than you knew you could do the job. And so it led to an incentive to do your very best. And I really had never heard him say a harsh word. The thing he could say to you was, I think we can do better. And that was the motivator.
And so he was the kind of boss, I would say, that I've always tried to copy, to give my staff lots of room, hire competent, talented people, and let them do what they can do.
I worked for him for 3.5 years. I never, ever, ever saw him riled. And there were lots and lots of challenges. You know, most often I was meeting with him about my department in the Missouri Department of Labor, and we went through some rocky times then, you know, worries about unemployment compensation funding and, you know, worries of taxes, employment taxes being too high or too low, you know, important stuff to the state, and he never, ever was riled.
But another thing that I thought was really good about him was that he listened, and he was always ready to come up with new ideas. And people liked that. He wasn't just saying, I'm going to defend the way things be, or I am some ideologue that is going to not be flexible in any way. He was a person that listened and was interested, and would take your idea, and if he could do anything with it, he would.
Well, his approach, you know, generally we would agree as a staff on a recommendation, but sometimes we couldn't agree, and he was a very quiet and patient listener, and he was decisive. He didn't flounder around on decisions. He understood, you know, the legislative process. He understood state government. He understood politics so well that he had the ability to boil it down and digest it and make a decision in a relatively quick fashion.
I was always surprised by the fact that he really read your briefing materials that you provided for him, and he thought about what you provided for him. He was really very much a deep student of the substance of what it takes to run this state.
You know, Governor Carnahan had a real sense, a real inner compass, I always called it. And he told me one time, he said, he reminded all of us that in politics, the shortest distance between 2 points is not a straight line. And yet, even while you're zigging and zagging in politics, he had a way of keeping his nose pointed to where we wanted to go, and of hewing to that, and of what was the right thing to do, and what would be the right thing that had staying power for the benefit of Missouri citizens.
Yeah, I think there are people run for office for a reason, or for different reasons. Either you run for the title, for the position, or you run for a cause, a purpose. And I think you put Governor Carnahan in that category, of an individual who had a vision of what he thought Missouri could be.
And I think that he had his priorities in the right spot. He was, I thought, a Democrat. He believed in doing things that I think would be helpful to the average person. And of course, education is one of those examples.
So in my mind, his legacy is very heavily tilted toward his willingness to direct increased investments in education across the board. And I think it's paid off handsomely, and that he'll be remembered for that.
To him, he loved going to schools. He loved reading to school children. He loved it when kids came by and decorated our tree outside of the Capitol office. It was something that he truly enjoyed. My kids came to his office, and he spent time talking to them about Lewis and Clark and about Seaman and you know, just the great stories and the history of Missouri. And he would really open up and relax when kids came around, and he had the ability to talk with them.
And he used to say Missouri wasn't going to have a future worth having if we didn't educate our children, both at the primary, secondary, and also at the college level in the best manner possible. He used to say about higher education, we need to invest in it. It's where our leaders come from. When it came to public service, Governor Carnahan believed one person really could make a difference. From his perspective, all it took was a commitment to help others and the courage to lead. I think his wish for this scholarship would be for it to encourage others like himself to enter public service.
But I think what he would want to communicate to students, especially those who were lucky enough to receive this kind of a scholarship, would be the discipline that genuine public service requires. It's not easy. It's not about being popular all the time. It's not about the glad-handing politics that so many people think that's what politicians are and that's what they do.
And if you're going to be successful in politics, it seems to me that one of the things you've got to do is realize that it's important to contribute new ideas, but to be willing to have those modified as you work with other people, and to genuinely want to work with the other people. And I think Mel was that way.
I think he would say that you need to take time to listen to the other side, and you need to try to find a common ground and a way to agree. There's always a way to come to an agreement on a tough policy issue. You may not get everything that you want, and they may not get everything that they want, but I think that he would say, you know, his calm demeanor and his patient way would say to take the time and learn the other side's position and be able to boil down your position and see where you can agree.
I would think that the governor would want these students to know that being among the best and the brightest who then commit to giving back to the people of your state is the absolute highest calling. Now, of course, there are hundreds of ways that you do that in medicine and law, but to do it in the public sector so that government that frames every aspect of life and opportunity for people and families and children and businesses in the state, to do it at that level as a public servant is really the highest calling. And I think that Governor Carnahan would want students to know that's the reason for this prize, that's the reason for this scholarship. He demonstrated it, but I think he wants students to really think about it, be honored and proud to serve.